Welcome to the program. Jay Chesshir is the president and CEO of the Little Rock Regional Chamber of Commerce. Good to see you. I didn't tell how many years you've been there, so because I don't want to age you too much. Yeah, we started when you were 18, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. This man is still in his late 30s, early 40s. We won't do that. Let us begin with the news that this past week, Attorney General Tim Griffin announced that he is going to be moving from the Tower building to the Boyle building, and that building is going to get renovated. It's a historic structure in downtown Little Rock. How big is that to part of the transformation of what is going on in downtown?
First of all, when you look at what's happened along Main Street with the Tech Park, we announced the second phase of the Tech Park in April. Now that the Boyle building, which has always been one of those iconic historic buildings along that pathway, is going to be renovated. Every time you bring more activity to a specific area, it helps create even additional activity beyond that. So it is an exciting announcement. You couple that with the Clinton Presidential Center announcement for that expansion, and what's even really interesting about that is Jeannie Gang is going to be the architect for that. People travel across the country to see buildings that she's created.
Well, there'll be another one that she's already got here too.
Museum of Fine Arts.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of amazing things happening in the core of the Central Arkansas region, the Metro Little Rock region, and so we're really excited about that, but also things that are happening all over the region.
Yeah. So just staying in downtown Little Rock, though, for one more question here. The river market has been the subject of conversation for some potential transformation. Do you think things are moving in the right direction? What do you think will be the time frame for some more developments there?
I do. Interestingly enough, out of the blue, had an opportunity to meet a group out of Ohio a couple of months ago, and it was because of City Director Joan Adcock introducing me to them. And this group of people have done things all across the world. It's not just the United States, with some of the most iconic brands that you've ever seen. And the fact that they are now interested in what we're doing in downtown Little Rock with the River Market area, with the 17-acre green space that's going to come about because of the I-30 corridor project, with Heifer, with the dental and veterinary school, with the Central Arkansas Library System expansion. I mean, I can go on and on and on. It's really, really an amazing time in downtown Little Rock with wonderful momentum.
Yeah. Let's talk more generally about the region. I see you got your Metro Trends, Metro Plan report there. That report came out this past week. It shows that there is growth in Central Arkansas, but it is some slowing growth compared to recent years, but maybe not compared to the last decade. I'm going to let you put all of that in some context from your perspective.
It's interesting. You go back a decade prior, and while there was some growth in the region, it was in very spotty areas. It's interesting to me that with the growth that we're now seeing, have seen, and expected to look at over the next several years, there's now growth on the eastern side of the region. And there's a lot of folks that would have never expected that. When you look at what's happening in Lonoke County, obviously White County, obviously Faulkner County, Saline County, all of that, the reality that we, as the report states, we're not having enough babies, so maybe you can talk to your viewers about that. So we need to increase our birth rate.
That's generational and national, by the way, so yeah.
That is true. But when you look at the in-migration into the region today, it's because they're choosing to either come back or come to a place that they feel like is more like home, which goes into why we started our talent attraction campaign a couple of months ago, where we are mining social media across the United States and the world. We now have over 650 resumes and applications from people in 33 different states and 9 different countries, giving them a reason, if they've never thought about Arkansas and Central Arkansas in particular, giving them a reason to look at us, and secondly, if they've been here and have some sort of familiarity, so being familiar with us, then have an opportunity to come back and take advantage of this place we call home.
Another announcement this week, which was really a re-announcement this week, was that Dollar General, obviously still committed to their big $140 million warehouse in North Little Rock, which is part of the greater Little Rock region that you represent, about 300 employees. I single that one out, not just because it happened this week, but because there has been a purposeful, intentional effort to make Central Arkansas a distribution centerpiece for America. Why is that? What is that? Why is that part of the strategy?
So interestingly enough, this actually goes back to Joe Ford and Bill Clark. who started the regional approach from an economic development perspective in the early 2000s. And interestingly enough, the first chairman of our regional group was Hugh McDonald, now the Commerce Secretary
Right.
for the state of Arkansas. And so what we began to understand 20 plus years ago was companies no longer move to communities, they move to regions, because the workforce needed for whatever that project is typically has to come from an area as opposed to a specific community. And so you go back to 2017 and we ran the Love Little Rock campaign.
Right.
Explaining to Amazon why we'd love to have them in their HQ2. We simply just didn't fit the criteria. But if they had something else, we would love to talk about it. Interestingly enough, the next week, we had our first visit from Amazon representatives. And if you'll recall, they were looking at and then created a tent facility that people were wondering what in the world was this. Well, we were out looking for properties that would be suitable for distribution. If it's just truck distribution, it really doesn't make sense to put in the port because the port receives the majority of its revenue from rail revenue. And so we were looking for sites that would work for trucks. Interestingly, found a 400 plus acre site in Galloway, owned by a gentleman in Tennessee. Then Economic Development Vice President for our organization, Ben France, went and met with him and talked to him about the possibility of marketing that piece of property that was being used for farmland as a distribution center. He agreed.
Okay.
And here we find ourselves a little over 5 years later, and that 400 acres is now filled with the third Amazon facility, the Dollar General facility that we talked about this week, the Lowe's facility, and it truly has transformed that part of our region into a distribution hub, even more so than what we have at the port.
We have a big FinTech summit that's going to bring world leaders in banking and financial technology to Arkansas this next week. What else are you focused on in terms of priorities for economic development and recruiting beyond warehouse and distribution?
So it's a whole litany of things. And again, what we're looking for is what differentiates us from our competition, whether that be Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Dallas, Atlanta, whatever it may be, because that's who we compete against every single day. And so it is not only the entrepreneurial and the innovation sector, it's the advanced manufacturing sector, it's the FinTech sector, it's all of these distribution, all these things coming together to try to create an economy that grows even faster than where we are. We have, I talk about our economy being a lot like a huge battleship. It's really hard to turn those things very quickly, but their momentum keeps them moving forward. And so we're trying to take that velocity of growth that MetroPlan is talking about and increasing it through adding to what we're already good at, healthcare, a huge piece of our strategy right now, and you're going to be hearing more about that in the not so distant future. But you look at what we're already good at, adding to that, and then innovating within that to do even more.
All right, I got less than 30 seconds left. The pipeline of potential projects, give it a grade, A through F. Where do you think we stand right now?
Actually, I don't even need a grade, Roby. I've been in this business now for 30 years. We have never in my career had a pipeline like we have today.
Really?
And so
in a good way.
In a good way,
Okay.
in a very good way. Our problem is working with our partners across the region in developing more product. If we don't have sites, if we don't have buildings, then we don't have product to sell. And so when you look at our friends across the region, Allison Thompson in Pine Bluff, Buck Lane in Searcy, and I can go on and on and on, great people that are helping us create more product so that we can bring more business.
I got to end it there. We could talk for another half hour. Jay Chesshir with the Little Rock Regional Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much.
Thank you.